Okay, well, the way we start almost all of our interviews is if you could tell us, okay, about the development of your feminist identity.
That's a tricky issue to address. Perhaps my awareness of women in psychology and women in research stems from when I worked for the Dain Commission, which was the Royal Commission on the use of non-medical drugs.
Okay.
And I was a senior investigator for them, running a study on marijuana.
Okay.
And I was asked to post advertisements about it.
Okay.
And the recruiting was to be only males.
Oh, interesting.
And I had a number of women who objected to the fact that they were being excluded from smoking good government dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hadn't realized until then just the extent to which women were excluded from participating in research because we were a messy variable.
Mm-hmm.
And from actually conducting or being recognized for conducting research.
Okay.
And this was in the 60s, and there were so many exciting movements at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was an age of hope,
Yeah.
and we really believed that we could change society.
Right.
And that's sort of how I got into feminism.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about some of the movements that you would have been involved in the 60s, or kind of the feeling of that time.
Oh, the feeling was marvelous. And I was at McGill at the time.
Okay.
And to be at McGill in Montreal during the time of this hippie era
Right.
was just so exciting.
Yeah.
We were involved in a number of peace movements and in politicking against American candidates, going down to the States, politicking for Eugene McCarthy, for instance.
Right.
And I wasn't involved in the Black movement, and First Nations people in Canada didn't yet have a voice. In fact, as an undergraduate, I did a study, not knowing it was qualitative research that I was doing, of what I called the forgotten minority. And so I went out to the reserve and interviewed some elders who consented to be part of my research. I've gotten completely off the track now.
Oh, that's okay. No, did you have any involvement at that time then with the feminist movement or the women's movement in Canada, or kind of what were you aware of what was going on in that scene?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that was near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
But as I say, it wasn't really until I worked for the Dain Commission and had women objecting to not being able to smoke good government dope that I began to question really what psychological research was all about.
Okay.
If it was done by men on men, instead of done with women.
Right. Did you voice any of this at the time of during your work on the Dain Commission?
Yes, and was shot down. I mean, that was the protocol I had to follow. But then I was working for the Dain Commission while waiting for permission to do my doctoral dissertation. There were no channels in Canada at the time to go through to get permission to give marijuana to humans. And so I had to wait until the interim report of the Commission of Inquiry into the Non-Medical Use of Drugs, I finally remembered the name, came out with their interim report in which it was recommended that procedures be put in place. so that people could apply for permission to conduct their research. And when I was doing that, I ensured that women were allowed to participate in my research. Also at the time, there was no such thing as a research ethics board or committee at McGill. So I insisted that one be established. And that meant that mine was the first research with people at McGill that was done with ethical approval.